Let's get started by telling you our story about the healthy dwellings that are designed specifically for dementia caregivers. So first I will start by, reminding us why home environment is so important for our health and well-being, and in particular for dementia caregivers. Then Dorothy will introduce this relatively new topic of biophilic interior design. And I will go right back and tell you more about the evidence-based claims, why this biophilic interior design provides tangible effects with respect to the physical as well as the mental health. Then the focus of this presentation will be designing this healthy dwelling, this interior design specifically for dementia caregivers, and we're going to end up by me re-emphasizing, reiterating health benefits from space that anyone can create. You are your own designer right within the home environment, and we will of course welcome all questions that we would like to answer. All right, so let's get started. And I'm going to start by emphasizing the obvious, and I think already during this conference, I don't need to reiterate the daily needs of dementia caregivers. And we actually heard this amazing performance today, which can't really match the studies, published studies, what it is really all about, right? But let's remind ourselves that dementia caregivers, their needs are the physical activity, the leisure activity, and we can combine them like walking 10 minutes in a park or in a neighborhood could be a combination of those. Stress management is a major one, which actually can go hand by hand with the social support. Meeting with friends, having the hobby within the group of interest, that's very important. And also from this self-care perspective, we can't talk enough about the quality sleep. I mean, having this restorative sleep is of great importance. And last but not least, feeling safe. So safety, the personal safety, financial safety, these are all critical aspects that also impact the well-being. So we call it the caregiver cycle. If you look into this image here, we cannot have really words describing dementia caregivers, right? Those are very hardworking, very patient people, compassionate, that provide this sense of well-being for the loved ones. But we're talking also about the real-life challenges, and this is a very nice word of saying the real life, right? And that real life brings a lot of stress. It also brings a lot of anxiety, depression, as well as fatigue, burnout. There's a number of different symptoms that dementia caregivers face. And so to close the cycle, which is extremely very important, one needs to really restore physiological functions, mental health, physical health, recharging, we can call it recharging. And if we don't close the cycle, that actually leads to this burnout and deterioration of the health. So that's one of the reasons why home environment is so important to really help to maintain this physical and mental health. Now, studies show that in the Western countries, majority of our time is spent indoors. And so this is one snapshot here. Americans spend approximately 90% of their time indoors. And so that actually, even this fact emphasizes importance of the home environment that can help to restore this physiological functions and our mental and physical health, as well as the home environment that actually can invite us for the self-care, even though we are just tired, fatigued, and basically don't want to do anything. So that's the importance of having this home environment for the mental and physical health. And so what this kind of home environment can provide us, specifically for dementia caregivers. First, and perhaps the most important, is feeling safety. Feeling safe at home is one of the critical components here. Promoting relaxation, and we'll go deeper into that, why relaxation is so important for restoring physiological functions. Supporting the self-care. And again, self-care, we have this self-care suite here. There's a number of different things, and we're going to mention only a few why self-care is of equal importance. That all of that can restore our physiological functions, can restore our mental health as well as the physical health, And last but not least, if we have the home environment that can connect us with nature, sort of independent of the weather conditions. We hear a lot of these days, like wildfires, air pollution, heat waves, cold waves, right? It's so nice to have the home environment that you can feel connected with nature, independent of what's happening outside. And we'll go into the science of that also in a little bit. So with this brief introduction, let me turn now to Dorothy, who will introduce you to this topic of biophilic interior design. Dorothy?
Thank you, Greg. So what is biophilic interior design? Most people have never heard the term before. So I'm going to begin by defining it for you. And then I will give you examples of a few patterns that fall under the umbrella of biophilic design. And then lastly, we'll give you examples of interior spaces that are designed with a biophilic influence. So biophilic design centers around bringing nature-inspired elements into your home as a way to bridge the innate connections humans have with our natural surroundings. Could you please take a second here and just imagine yourself in this space and what it would feel like being in this space. The focus in biophilic design is to create an environment that emulates and almost simulates to a degree the experience that we find when we're in nature. Biophilic design is a swiftly growing field utilized by architects, interior designers, and landscape engineers that, in addition to providing aesthetically beautiful designs, also has the added benefit of improving health and well-being. It's pretty exciting. In biophilic design, there are a vast number of elements that can be used to help improve your health and well-being. And today, we will be showing you a few of those that we think can really help you can take home. So the first example falls under the pattern known as a visual connection with nature. And these elements here, plants and fresh flowers, are the most common and accessible in biophilic design. These two elements are at the top of our list because they are known to reduce pain and to reduce anxiety. The next biophilic principle is called refuge. An example of this in nature is a tree that has overarching branches that form a canopy of protection against the sun and other natural elements. So why is it that we're drawn when we go into nature, into sitting under a tree when we're wanting to read a book or have a picnic? It's because we have this innate need to feel protected from the elements when we're in nature. And in this example of biophilic interior design, here we have this the wood element. The wood surrounds the space, encompassing it, in addition to having these glass openings. And so this creates that same kind of sense of refuge, feeling safe while experiencing the outdoors. And then the effect of creating a refuge is that it increases relaxation in your body, which then it starts that restoring the mental and physical health. The third one is dynamic lighting. So in this slide here, you see two examples of dynamic lighting. One is direct sunlight, which is when sun is coming straight through a window into your home. And the other is called dynamic or indirect light, which is where a source of light comes through and then gets dispersed into a broader space, creating this diffused light effect. So another example of indirect light that's more common is a lamp, a table lamp or a floor lamp, or pendant lights that are hung from the ceiling, chandeliers, or lighting that's coming from sconces from your walls. So those are all examples in our homes of what indirect light is. And in biophilic design, this pattern is used to leverage the varied light intensities from the light and the shadow intensities that change throughout the day that emulate that happens in nature. And the reason is because it increases your energy and it helps you have a better quality sleep. So to sum it up, the biophilic elements play different roles and create varying responses in our body depending on the different elements that you bring into your space. For instance, some elements are used to relax the body. Some are used to decrease stress, fatigue, or pain, or anxiety. Other elements are used to improve cognitive abilities that help you stay focused, mentally alert, and energized. So the elements chosen for a space are very specific to the user of the space and their needs, as well as what the space is being used for. And now I'm going to go into 3 case studies that will show you some examples of interior spaces that are designed with this biophilic influence. Okay, so the first case study we have direct lighting. It's coming from the windows, and indirect lighting from a few pendant lights. And you can see this one. This is kind of an interesting biophilic element because you can't really see it in this picture, but it's 2 cherries. So it kind of creates this very fun, accent piece for the space. And then we also have plants and fresh flowers that are surrounding the space to give you that feeling of refuge and protection while looking out into the nature setting beyond. And then there are materials such as wood and wool and a cowhide rug that bring in that kind of sense of organic aliveness. And lastly, in this picture, there is a nature-inspired element with this zebra print on the rug. The second case study, again, we have this sense of refuge by, we have the plants, and this how you see how the ceiling is kind of brought down in this space. That again it's almost like that canopy kind of sense where it starts to make that space feel a little cozier. We also have direct light from the sun coming through the windows, as well as a visual connection with nature with the trees and the plants outside. And then the sofa. So that even your furniture can be shaped with these curvy lines. It kind of gives a sense of like fluid motion, and it tells your body that it's time to relax and like go with flow, So there are also some other elements such as even just your stool that's like more of a functional element, but it's like prop up your feet and relax. And then the wood elements, which Greg is going to go into also, it's very interesting. I think that how the wood, your body is affected by touching wood elements. And how it helps increase your health and well-being. So all these elements are placed in a space here that is away from the busier part of the home as well. So this also gives you this cue. So a lot of what we design around are these cues that can help like throughout your day. It's a cue that says this is like a getaway from the normal hustle and bustle of life. So you can just go and it's time to relax. This third case study also shows plants placed around a comfy chair, again, that sense of refuge. It has the indirect lighting with the table lamp, and then these 2 lighting features that are bouncing off the wall and coming down, as well as the direct light coming through a window, creating that layered lighting effect, that dynamic lighting. And let's see, it also has these stone materials, providing a material connection with nature, as well as the metal. Stone and metal are bringing that connection with nature. And then this nebby wool rug it's called this indirect experience with nature. So all of these things are, giving us these cues, our brain cues, that we're connecting with nature. And a lot of times you don't even know it's happening. You just walk into a space and you're like, this feels really good. It's about creating that sense of sanctuary, bringing it into your space, into your home, as much as you can, So now Greg will be providing you with examples of research studies that are showing those health benefits of biophilic design.
Thank you, Dorothy. So I'm the science person behind all of these beautiful pictures, right? And so when you talk science, it's supposed to be boring and much less pictures and more text. So what I would like to reiterate that while the biophilic interior design is a relatively new field, but there are already multiple studies, research studies published in peer-reviewed literature that show very tangible benefits of this biophilic interiors, how they impact physiology as well as the mental physical health. So in this particular case, I'm just showing you two examples of published studies how biophilic interiors are known to reduce physiological stress. Which is very important. So being in a space can reduce physiological stress. But majority of people are not aware that even view from the window, so the green space that can view from the window, like this one here, has been shown not only to promote relaxation, but also to reduce the risk of depression. Now, that's a medical statement, right? So there's a study showing how this view from the window can reduce the risk of depression. Now, because it's science, this is supposed to be less of the images, and I'm showing you just a few examples of the research studies. This is published in the peer-reviewed literature, showing the first element, which is the presence of flowers and plants, what they can do to your health and well-being. So studies show, for example, that the plants and flowers can reduce stress, can improve emotional health, like improving positive emotions. They can lower pain. They can lower anxiety and stress as well as the blood pressure. So they actually act through like cardiovascular functions. So both indoor plants as well as the ornamental plants. Plants also can reduce stress and anxiety. And again, there are studies showing how they can have like analgesic effect in reducing pain sensation. So if we had to summarize all of these currently published research studies, we can draw the conclusion that plants and flowers can reduce stress, can reduce anxiety, and can improve positive emotions. And you can relate how important it is for dementia caregivers as well as for pretty much everyone else. Another element that Dorothy mentioned is the dynamic lighting. And there's a lot of published literature on the relationship between the light conditions and the health. And so I'm just showing you very few examples of these published studies in peer-reviewed journals, showing that, for example, specific lighting conditions can reduce chronic pain. I mean, that's very interesting, compelling story. They can reduce lower back pain, they can reduce pain, especially when it comes to exposure to natural light and to sunlight. So those are the published studies. We are aware of how bright light therapy can reduce seasonal depression, but it's also known to reduce non-seasonal depression. So the bright light can also help to reduce depressive symptoms. Now, not many people know that exposure to the green light, like specific wavelength, and there are right now bulbs that offer those. You don't need to go very sophisticated lighting system. You can purchase a bulb, which is like green light bulb, that actually can reduce frequency of migraine headaches. Those are published research studies. And last but not least, also specific lighting, for example, replacing the bulb with what we call the zero blue light, so just filtering the blue wavelength can improve sleep, which again comes back to the creating environment maybe in the bedroom that can promote better quality sleep. So if we had to summarize current research studies in terms of how dynamic lighting can affect our health, it can reduce fatigue, it can reduce depression, and it can improve sleep. Those are very important aspects here. Another biophilic element you heard about is the presence of wood elements, and you will see them also in this design for dementia caregivers. So there are already several studies published in the peer-reviewed journals showing how contact with wood elements, whether visual contact or touching wood elements, can, for example, reduce blood pressure. That's a very interesting study, can lower the heart rate. Just the presence of the wood or touching wood elements. Of equal importance are the studies showing how this contact with wood elements can activate parasympathetic nervous system. And while we can talk hours about the relationship between activated parasympathetic nervous system and what happens to our bodies, the take-home message is that that's the state, the physiological state where body can start restoring through the natural functions. Our bodies are very smart, but only in this calm state, what we call inner peace, the activated parasympathetic nervous system can provide this environment that our body can start restore and recharge. And last but not least, because we also talk about the self-care, there are a number of studies, clinical studies, randomized controlled trials, including the meta-analysis, systematic review, how music, listening to music, not only can reduce depression, but also can reduce pain. And we're talking about a chronic pain and acute pain. So many people don't realize how effective the listening to music is, even from the therapeutic benefit perspective here. So not only music can reduce depression and pain, it can also improve processing of emotions, so we can improve emotional health, as well as it can improve the sleep. And last but not least, the essential oils aromatherapy is a part of the self-care. And most of us probably were very fortunate to get a glimpse at this through these workshops. There are clinical studies showing how aromatherapy with essential oils can reduce anxiety, can reduce pain. In fact, in Europe, these are approved as medications, this aromatherapy for reduction of anxiety and for improving sleep through the lavender oil. So these are things that we can do within our space that can help our health. Now, this concept is also not new to just spaces created for dementia, for people with dementia. And so this is an example of one study published last year, and I'm gonna go through the title. It's a biophilic design strategies in long-term residential care environments for persons with dementia. So these design elements are already applied in those homes or residential spaces that can also help people with dementia. However, what Dorothy will describe you right now is specifically designed for dementia caregivers, and this is based on our recently published article, also in a peer-reviewed journal, in which we applied these design elements, the biophilic interior design elements that also foster very specific self-care that can help people to reduce migraine headaches, can reduce chronic pain, or reduce depressive symptoms. So with this, I'm gonna turn now to Dorothy, who will tell us how to design this healthy dwelling specifically for dementia caregivers.
Thank you, Greg. So yeah, I'm going to now present to you an example room that Greg and I have created that's based on evidence, the evidence and research that we've done. But it's gonna combine the biophilic patterns as well as some self-care modalities into the space to maximize your health and well-being. So let's start for just a second. Just imagine in your own space, a room or a corner of a room, or even just a space within a room that right now may be being underutilized. You could start with in this design concept. So in this case, we have a workout space. Keep in mind that this is a luxury home designed for specific, in this case, chronic pain. But I would love it if you could just think about each element that I bring into the space, because most of the time we have it already, these elements in our home, and we just need to put them in the space together as a layering effect. That then, in addition, you're creating a space that you're calling like this is my place I can come and relax. So just take these elements and imagine how you can incorporate them into your space. Okay, so we start by emptying the space, moving everything out. So you have a clean slate to work with, and here, already incorporated into the space, because we had designed it for chronic pain, are some of the key elements, one of which is fresh flowers and the indirect lighting here. We're going to add a little bit more indirect lighting in a minute. Then we have the direct light, as well as this tree-lined area in the back, in the landscaping, which for this room is creating this sense, again, starting the sense of refuge, of protection, privacy, and the user can really start to relax in it. And also noting the wood elements. Again, this is quite a lot of wood, which is wonderful, but bringing in wood elements in general, just like Greg was talking about, touching wood elements is really, it creates a physiological effect that calms your nervous system down immediately, just by touching it. So bringing the wood elements in, and then finally, this space already has a built-in music system. But, of course, bringing a speaker, so just something to, facilitate listening to your favorite music, meditation, or whatever the like. Okay, so next. In this space, I wanted to continue that sense of creating the refuge. Because again, this is like a very tall, high ceiling that I needed visually to bring that space down. This is awesome and beautiful, but you could also create this if you really love that feeling of being held and encompassed by something. You can get a canopy, like a net canopy that they're made. You put them over the beds a lot of times for that same kind of sense of feeling refuge. But I created it in the space to kind of, again, bring that space down visually. And this is like an oversized preserved moss pendant light. So in this space, for the purposes of our presentation, I really liked this concept, going back to that picture of the woman sitting under the tree, and how that helps you feel held and protected while experiencing nature. Gives that same sense when you're inside this space. Next, I put a rug in the space that does the same kind of thing in the sense of like creating that sense of comfort and being held from the bottom of the ground up. And also, it defines the space for you. So now you have this cue. When you walk into this room, you step onto this rug, you have, this is like your body saying, okay, this is my space where I'm gonna now get to relax and just unwind. And then additionally, this rug, just pointing out some of the biophilic elements that you can bring in if you are specifically designing. It's, just looking at the rug, it has these very biomorphic patterns happening that you would find in nature. So I'm going to start to create this sense of refuge by bringing in a few more plantings to really start to feel held in the space. And now I'm bringing in a chair. In this case, it's a lounge chair. You can bring in any kind of comfortable chair that you love into the space. This particular chair is, I'll point out, its biophilic features as well. It's created with this wool fabric. It feels comfortable. It's an organic material, and it's got these kind of nebby, comfortable aspect, as well as it's built on a base that has this biomorphic form. All these things are sending these cues to your body that connect you. This gives you a deeper connection with nature. Okay, we had a side table with these geometric forms. It's also made of a stone material, continuing that biophilic influence. And then finally, we add a lamp and ideally also a diffuser for aromatherapies. And in this case, it's both. It's a combination of a light and a diffuser for that space. So to wrap all of this up, the elements that you can use to design your space that will really provide you as caregivers this optimal restorative environment is fresh flowers and plants, layered lighting, the wood accents, a comfortable chair and a rug, and a delivery system for your music as well as aromatherapy. Now I will turn back to Greg to reiterate the health benefits of these specific elements in this design for this healthy dwelling for dementia caregivers.
Thank you so much. And I hope you can appreciate, first of all of these elements, biophilic elements, and you can connect them with impact, whether direct or indirect impact on physical as well as the mental health. So let me just briefly reiterate before we just summarize, and then we'll open to questions. So first, this refuge space that Dorothy has designed, it's based also on some of psychological studies and research studies, how this refuge space, first of all, provides this feeling of safety, right? So we go back to these needs for feeling safe. And it brings this feeling of safety as well as feeling less vulnerable. Therefore, we are more likely to get into this activated parasympathetic nervous system. The space of refuge can also reduce stress and fatigue, but also it has been shown to improve cognitive functions. So for example, improving concentration, attention, we, in a very hectic, stressful situations, we lose focus, and so this kind of being in that space can restore also cognitive functions. The presence of indoor plants, we already know by now how they can reduce stress, anxiety, how they can lower the blood pressure, can improve the cardiovascular functions, and indoor plants go hand in hand with the flowers to reiterate the presence of flowers here basically aims to improve our positive emotions, so helps with our processing all of these emotional aspects of our health, as well as can lower the stress and lower the anxiety. Then last but not least, the presence of any type of comfortable chair within this refuge space invites us for relaxation, right? It's almost like unheard of that such a comfy place is empty. So that's what we call this space that fosters self-care, fosters relaxation, and whether it's meditation or just a nap, it helps us to reduce stress and anxiety. Also, coming back to activated parasympathetic nervous system, this is where we start restoring our functions. And this chair is also in a context of aromatherapy, as well as delivery of the music. So it's so important to start combining those elements into the daily routine. It's literally playing the music in the background, being in a comfy chair, and having just the plant at the front of you. And this is like you're the designer again, right, of your own space. But it doesn't take a lot to positively impact our health. So let us summarize what we have told you. So the first, I hope that we all agree that home environment is very important for our own health, but in particular for dementia caregivers to help restore mental, physical health and well-being. Second, I hope that Dorothy and I were able to share a little bit more information about biophilic interior design and how it can provide tangible health benefits, whether it applies to physical health or mental health. And last but not least, I hope you are intrigued what you can do within your own space to help restore, recharge, and to improve health and well-being. And if there's like one thing you can do today or tomorrow, is just to get a plant. If you ask a question like, what can I do today on a low budget? It's like, go get a plant and put it in a place where either can improve the view from the window, or it can create the sense of this refuge, right? So even where you put the plant matters, right? And also knowing now that these plants actually do provide health benefits, it also helps to sort of enjoy those health benefits. So the take-home message from today's presentation is that the healthy dwelling are these biophilic interior environments that are specifically designed to improve mental and physical well-being. So with this, we would like to thank again both the foundation and all of you for time, for your interest, and we're very happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Great. Do you guys do house calls?
Only after 8 p.m. We are so busy after 8 p.m., yes. Question? So from the research perspective, likely yes. However, there are studies showing how even the virtual reality app that basically you can look through and see the nature actually have positive effects. And there's a recent study published last year, which they call it the dose response of biophilic intervention, where they show how much greenery within the room gets the most optimal response in people. So the answer to your question is likely both the artificial as well as the real. This is real, by the way, right? As well as on our booth, those are real flowers, although people were trying to see if they are plastic. But there is likely a difference, but they all still impact positively. They have, it's this very deep innate connection that matters.
It's more of varying degrees, to varying degrees is effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes?
So will the plants actually, will it add any more oxygen in a room in a material way, or is that?
There is a studies right now. This is a very new area, and it's still evolving. What the presence of plants in indoor plants, what they do to the environment. So from the oxygen perspective, and we're not experts here, right, on the plants. However, it depends on the plant, right, because some of them produce oxygen at night versus the daytime, right? And so you have to talk to like specialists, really, which plant can provide more oxygen or less. However, plants are known to improve the air quality, air pollution from these volatile organic compounds, VOC. So those are multiple studies. Although, again, these are so new studies that, as always in science, there are 2 points of view, right? And I still think it's nice to have a plant independent of how much air pollution is removed or not, right? So I hope that answers at least in part your question. All right, last question, or if there are any other questions. Thank you again so much
Thank you. And
for your
thanks for
attention.
having us here.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.